You're listening to the TOEFL podcast, number 20. You're listening to episode number 20 of the TOEFL podcast, the Test of English as a Foreign Language podcast, for those studying for the TOEFL, the IELTS, or any other standard English exam. I'm your host, Dr. Jeff McQuillan, coming to you from the Center for Educational Development in beautiful Los Angeles, California. On this podcast, we're going to talk about getting in to graduate school or getting admitted to graduate school. Let's get started. Hey, Aline. I wonder if I can ask you a question.
Sure. What's up?
Well, I'm trying to apply for grad school and wanted to get your advice on something. I have to get some rec letters from my professors, but I'm not quite sure how to go about it.
I'd recommend talking to them personally about it by making an appointment to see them during their office hours. Give them the form with the self-addressed stamped envelope and make sure they know the deadline for it.
So I shouldn't just email them?
You could, but I think it's better for them to place a face with a name by talking to them personally. Of course, you should also write a short thank you note to follow up.
Got it. What about the transcripts? What do I need to get them sent to my potential colleges?
Most universities are going to want to see official transcripts. You can check online with the registrar's office.
Thanks. You really know your stuff when it comes to grad school.
I'm hardly an expert, but I'm glad I could help.
This podcast is all about getting in. To get in means to be accepted or to be admitted to a college or university. So someone might say to you or ask you, did you get in to Harvard? Did you get in to UCLA? Meaning, did you get admitted? Were you accepted? And will you be able to go there and study? Well, in this dialogue, Juan is trying to get in to a graduate school. That would be the university courses, the university degrees that are for a doctor, a PhD, a master's. All these are types of graduate schools. And we abbreviate graduate usually with just grad, G-R-A-D. So grad school is the same as graduate school after you finish your 4 years of your bachelor's degree. In this case, Juan begins by saying, I wonder if I can ask you a question. I wonder if is a very common expression in English. It's a polite way of saying to someone that you want to ask them a question. I wonder if I can ask you where you bought your shoes. Meaning, where did you buy your shoes? But where did you buy your shoes is very direct. And so we sometimes use phrases like, I wonder if, to make them more polite. Aline says that she would be happy to answer Juan's question. She says, sure. What's up? Meaning, what is the question? And Juan says that he's trying to apply for grad school. And to apply, A-P-P-L-Y, means that you are filling out or you are writing on a piece of paper information or typing it and you are hoping that the graduate school will admit you, and that is to apply. We apply for colleges. We apply for universities. You can also apply for a job when you are trying to get a job. Juan says that he has to get some rec letters from his professors. A rec letter, R-E-C, letter, 2 words, is the same as a recommendation letter. Rec is short for recommendation. And of course, a recommendation letter is a letter that the professor writes saying, you are such a great student, you are the best student in the world. Well, if you are the best student in the world. But rec letters are required by most colleges and universities, especially for graduate school or grad school. Juan says that he's not quite sure how to go about it. The expression how to go about something means how to do something. For example, how do I go about finding a husband or finding a wife? And you ask someone and they say, well, you go to the internet and you put an ad, I'm looking for a wife or a husband. Well, that's one way to go about it. Eileen says that she recommends talking personally to the professors, to Juan's professors. So she recommends to Juan that he talk personally to them. And to talk personally, P-E-R-S-O-N-A-L-L-Y, to someone means that you are standing in front of them, that you are actually talking to them. Another way to say that would be face to face. Face to face. Eileen says that Juan should give his professors the form with a self-addressed stamped envelope. The form, F-O-R-M, is what the school, the university, asks the professors to fill out. Sometimes professors write an actual letter. Sometimes they just fill out or complete or put information on a form, a piece of paper that asks them specific questions. Usually they ask the professors to rate a particular student. Are they one of the top 5% of your students, top 10%, top 25, etc., and so forth? A self-addressed stamped envelope. Well, an envelope, of course, is what you put a letter in order to mail it. When we say an envelope is self-addressed, SELF-ADDRESSED. Self-addressed means that it has your name on it as the person that you are sending the letter to. A stamped envelope, of course, is an envelope that already has a stamp on it. And this idea of a self-addressed stamped envelope, which we sometimes abbreviate SASE, if you see that abbreviation, SASE, it stands for self-addressed stamped envelope. It's an envelope you give to someone with your address on it and already carrying a stamp so that they don't have to get their own envelope and buy their own stamp. Usually when someone else is doing you a favor, you would give them a self-addressed stamped envelope. Juan asks if it's okay just to email a professor, and Eileen says you could, meaning that's possible, but she thinks it's better for his professors to place a face with a name. We can also say to put a face to a name. To place a face with a name means the professor has many students. And so if he gets an email from you, he may not remember who you are, But if you talk to them personally, they'll say, oh, yes, I know who you are. And that, of course, is true for university professors. They're very many students. They have very many students. And so it's sometimes difficult for them to remember, especially old professors like me. Well, I'm not too old, but old enough. Aline recommends that Juan also write a short thank you note to follow up. A thank you note, of course, is a small letter or note to someone thanking them. To follow up, that verb, F-O-L-L-O-W-U-P, to follow up means to do all the things necessary after someone does you a favor, or you ask someone to do something and you want to check and make sure they've done it. We say, I'm going to follow up with you. I will contact you again to make sure you did what I asked you to do, or to thank you for what you did. Juan says that he's got it. That expression, got it, means I got it, I understand. He asks about the transcripts, and transcripts, T-R-A-N-S-C-R-I-P-T, are a list of all of your classes and the grades that you got in your classes. Transcripts are required for most universities, especially, again, for graduate school. He wants to know how he can send his transcripts to his potential colleges. Potential, P-O-T-E-N-T-I-A-L, are the colleges that he's thinking of going to, the ones that he wants to get into. Aline says that most colleges want official transcripts. Official transcripts are transcripts that come directly from the university to another university or another person. You can also get unofficial transcripts. Official is O-F-F-I-C-I-A-L. Unofficial, you just add a U-N in front of it. An unofficial transcript is one that the college or university gives directly to you. But most colleges, graduate schools, want an official transcript to make sure that you didn't change any of your grades to make them higher than they were. And the transcripts in a university are taken care of, or you can get them from the registrar's office. The registrar, R-E-G-I-S-T-R-A-R, that's the place where you get your transcripts. Juan thanks Aline and says, you really know your stuff when it comes to graduate school. To know your stuff, S-T-U-F-F, means you know a lot about, that you are very knowledgeable. You have a lot of information about something. The expression when it comes to means referring to, or in the matter of graduate school, or about graduate school. Aline says, I'm hardly an expert, but I'm glad I could help. I'm hardly, H-A-R-D-L-Y, means that I'm not an expert. Hardly means that you are not something or not very much of something. Now let's listen to the dialogue, this time at a native rate of speech. Hey, Aline, I wonder if I can ask you a question.
Sure, what's up?
Well, I'm trying to apply for grad school and wanted to get your advice on something. I have to get some rec letters from my professors, but I'm not quite sure how to go about it.
I'd recommend talking to them personally about it by making an appointment to see them during their office hours. Give them the form with a self-addressed stamped envelope and make sure they know the deadline for it.
So I shouldn't just email them?
You could, but I think it's better for them to place a face with a name by talking to them personally. Of course, you should also write a short thank you note to follow up.
Got it. What about the transcripts? What do I need to do to get them sent to my potential colleges?
Most universities are going to want to see official transcripts. You can check online with the registrar's office.
Thanks. You really know your stuff when it comes to grad school.
I'm hardly an expert, but I'm glad I can help.
Now let's ask a comprehension question on this dialogue. Aline tells Juan that if he wants to get a recommendation letter from his professors, the best way would be to A, email them and ask them to send it by the deadline, B, call them and let them know the deadline as soon as possible, C, write a short note and include a thank you letter, or D, go to their office and ask them face to face. The correct answer is D, go to their office and ask them face to face. The other answers, A, email them and ask them to send it by the deadline, is not correct because Aline says it would be better to place a face with a name, meaning to go there personally. So emailing them is incorrect. Calling them is incorrect. Write a short note and include a thank you letter. Well, it is true that Aline recommends that Juan write a short note, but that's after he has asked the professors for their recommendation letters. Today's podcast was written by Merope Peponides. Thank you, Merope, for your help. Remember to visit our website at TOEFLPod, that's TOEFLPod.com, for the script for today's dialogue and for more information about this podcast. We also have a daily podcast you might want to listen to. It's at www.eslpod.com. From Los Angeles, California, I'm Jeff McQuillan. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time on the TOEFL Podcast. The TOEFL Podcast is written and produced by Dr. Lucy Say. Your host is Dr. Jeff McQuillan. This podcast is copyright 2006 by the Center for Educational Development. TOEFL is a registered trademark of the Educational Testing Service, which does not endorse and was not involved in the production of this podcast.